Good afternoon, everybody. Um, I'm not sure if Joe has ever been on a space before or not, so I'm going to kind of walk you through it in case you haven't. I sent you an invite to speak. If it popped up too quickly, if you just request the um, on the bottom left, hit that toggle that says request, and we will get you on up on the panel as a speaker, Joe. Hey, John. Hey, software.
Hey,
Hello.
good afternoon, Sherry. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Great. One thing to mention, Joe, is if you're on a desktop, sometimes it looks a little different. Oh, there you go. You're in.
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
Joe. Welcome.
Hi.
Are we popping your spaces cherry today, Joe?
It's a pretty gross way of putting it, but sure, yes.
That's the way we like to put in the spaces here. So let me give you a little tour of a space. So down at the bottom, you'll see what looks like a magic wand. If you click on it, there are it's a soundboard. You can make different sounds, which we all tend to stay away from when we're in the when we're trying to interview somebody. Then
Mm-hmm.
next to that is you can see who's in the room. If you click on that with the little people, and then the heart. If you click on that, it gives you emojis that you can just put up in the room. If you click on a person's profile picture, you can send them a personal emoji. So
Wow.
there's your little tour, and on the bottom right is a I'm trying to add somebody as a speaker as I speak. There's a little like thought bubble or chat bubble. You could click on it to post something to the chat of this space, and everybody will be able to see it. So there's your tour of a space.
Okie
Uh,
dokie, thank you. I
you
don't
are,
think I'll be pressing any buttons.
I hear you. I appreciate you joining us today. I want to give a little bit of an introduction. Known as Stapes, our guest today, Joe Stapleton, has been a voice that we've all heard in the booth of many live broadcasts, such as the Shark Cage Poker Night in America, as well as many broadcasts for the EPT, to name a few. Joe has a total life earnings on Hendon Mob of 31,000, with his best life cash over 10K for his 38th place finish in a $5,200 no limit shooting star tournament at the Bay 101. According to poker.org, Joe graduated from Boston University a year early to save on tuition, took his small inheritance, and moved west to LA. Shortly after arriving, Joe began a job of production assistant on the show Mad TV. In 2013, Joe started his comedy career. Joe is also a GPI recipient for Best Podcast of 2022 for his joint effort with James Hartigan for their podcast Poker in the Ears. So thanks again for joining us, Joe. I'm just going to start out some of the questioning, so to speak.
Hold on a
With
second. Don't say questioning. That sounds like I'm being interrogated.
Come on, some people think it is. We try to make it as that it's not that formal, but some people have said, I was a little nervous with your interrogation, and we just
Time to
laugh because
start with the questioning.
we just are so laxed in our space that we just really want to have fun, and whatever happens happens. um, but if I want to say um, a name or two to you, and please share a story or a comment about that person, and feel free to pass. Phil Lack. Phil Lock.
Phil Locke, in my opinion, is the most entertaining poker player that I've ever had the pleasure of doing commentary on, of being able to watch play poker. He's just an absolute character, a brilliant, brilliant fella, and a guy who just sort of gets it. That perfect blend of being good action and also not necessarily always taking every edge he can take, because he knows the value of being liked and being good for the game. So I love Phil Locke. He's my favorite.
I love Phil Lock too, and I of course love his gal Jennifer. as well. And she likes to come into the spaces under a fake account, and we love that. And she'll message us as she's listening, and it's awesome. Maria Ho.
Maria Ho is one of my closest friends. Doesn't get any better than Maria when it comes to being a poker ambassador. Doesn't get any better when it comes to being a poker analyst. Is a great friend of mine. Has done a lot of good things, good and nice things for me over the years. And honestly, Maria was kind of a name in poker before I was. Clearly, she's a bigger name than I am even now, but and she was kind to me from the very start when she was part of the poker in crowd, and I was just a little Weasley tournament reporter. She and her friends were always very, very kind and just really sweet and were welcoming from the very start.
That is so amazing. That's why people stay in poker, isn't it? Because of the welcome we give. And if we don't give a good welcome, they're not going to stay. So that's awesome to hear about Maria, and I'm sure nobody is surprised. How about Mike Sexton?
Mike Sexton and I didn't really interact very much when Mike was alive. Unfortunately, most of the time where Mike was kind of on the scene, I had moved to Europe, and he was always very kind to me. I don't really know that he even knew who I was, to be honest, because he was kind to everyone, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that certain guys like Mike and Vince, they're so charming and so charismatic and so, again, welcoming that it's hard to know if that's just their default setting. But Mike and I did not interact very much, but obviously, as a poker commentator, it's impossible to not have been influenced. We all of us did our Mike Sexton impressions when we were just poker fans. I mean, all your Pots Be Live and your what is it, Hands Be Monsters or something like that. I mean, that's something that, we all, when you're a poker fan, and, it was the early 2000s, before I was even thinking of working in poker. Not that I ever thought about it to begin with, but before that was even a possibility, I was watching Mike on the World Poker Tour. So it's impossible for him to not have been a part of my sort of maturing in poker, I guess.
I love that so much. How about Alan Kessler?
Kessler, I think, is a great character. I got a lot of time for the guy. He says some pretty outrageous things sometimes that get people riled up. I think he likes that. Um, and obviously, I think certain women have a separate sort of opinion of Alan that I can't really speak to because I only get the treatment that I get as being a male poker commentator. But for the most part, I think Alan's heart's in the right place. He's just kind of a strange dude, and I like that. I think being strange is a benefit.
Well, we love Alan around here. He hangs out in the spaces quite often with us, and he's, as you know, a wealth of information, and he's always willing to share that information.
Yeah,
And
right. He's
so,
done the same for me. Absolutely.
yeah, so we enjoy his company for sure. Will you be doing any booth work this summer at the WSOP? And if so, what will it be?
I will not be at the WSOP this year, except for I will be in Vegas on July 5th because I'm shooting a comedy special there. I don't like to say special, but I'm taping some comedy there. But I'm doing a big comedy road trip this summer that is going to eat up the entire uh, most of the World Series of Poker. So I actually won't set foot in the Horseshoe even once. I don't think.
Well, that disappoints me because I would look forward to seeing you in person. But since you brought it up, I was snooping around and stalking you, so I could kind of be prepared for today. And for those that want to know about Joe's comedy tour, you can check out his entire schedule at fansofstapes.com. He's going to be at the Comedy Night at Celebration located in Southern Illinois on June 14th at 6:30. And then he's also going to be at the Looney Bin, which I love the name of that place, in Little Rock, Arkansas on June 15th at 9:30. But please look up his entire schedule on fansofstapes.com.
Yeah, we're going from I'll rattle it off real quick, not every single show, but we're going from Illinois to Arkansas to Chicago to Michigan to Wisconsin to Kentucky to Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Albuquerque, Flagstaff, and then Vegas. So if you're in any of those places, do hey, look, I'm not. I have a couple of fans. But I'm still at the point where I can reply to everyone individually. So if you're in any of those places and you want a little more info on the show, go to my social media. If you can't find it, just holler at me and I'll be happy to pass it along.
I love that. And I am looking at that schedule thinking I might be able to sneak in a show later
Ooh,
in the summer. And the jury's still out on that, but I'm going to try. So,
cool.
software, please go ahead with your questions for Joe.
Well, yeah. If are you going to be in Vegas for the 5th, Sherry? We should
No, I'll
go.
be gone by the 3rd unless I happen to, be in some tournament still.
Well, we'll probably go if there's still tickets. Um, Joe, so tell us about like how you got your start in poker and how that transitioned or you were in poker before comedy, right?
Well, it's, the comedy thing can be a little confusing. It's not intuitive. Basically, what happened was I knew I always wanted to do something funny, and I kind of called myself a comedian for a long time before I actually really was doing stand up. And, I don't think that means, I don't think you have to do stand up comedy to call yourself a comedian, but it's probably like the biggest indicator. So, I started working in poker in 2005. I had moved to LA trying to do something, be a comedy writer, and I just got lucky and got an internship with Card Player Magazine. Didn't really know that much about poker. I'd played it, I mean, a little bit here and there. When I say here and there, I mean $5 home games in our studio apartments in LA. And they needed writers, and I wanted to be a writer, so I went to the World Series in 2005 and did tournament reporting, and those really funny or not so funny like poker news titles that you see of hand histories. I was doing those for Card Player Magazine back then, and that job slowly turned into being on like doing video content, and then nobody called it content back then. And then I started doing a podcast, and I did another podcast, and I did another podcast. And then the big game was in development at PokerStars, and they wanted a new voice. They wanted someone that had never been heard of before, and they wanted it to be young and irreverent. And people like Daniel Negreanu and a guy named John Caldwell and Barry Greenstein and Joe Seabach, they're all like, well, we know a guy that's just like that. And PokerStars took a chance on me and put me on the big game. And around then's when I started kind of dabbling in stand-up, but I really wasn't very consistent with it. And it wasn't until 2013 when I moved to England to do the EPT that I kind of had a fairly light schedule. I only worked a couple days a week because the show, we were doing one episode a week, and it didn't require a ton of my time. So I was like, hey, buddy, you got no excuse now. Let's go out and do some stand-up. So that's when I really consider myself to have to become a stand-up comedian. It was about 11 years ago now.
What was more intimidating, Sherry's questions or your first stand? No, I'm just kidding. No, seriously. Like what was that like? I've always wondered, like getting up there the first time.
My first
Like,
stand-up comedy experience was so harrowing and so again for like 8 years. It was that uncomfortable of a moment for me that I would just think about going to an open mic and it would make me sick to my stomach and I would just not go. So it was really rough. I don't even think I did the worst you can do as a first timer, but it was also so stressful. I don't know if you've ever had a moment like this, but like I kind of blacked out. Like I stayed conscious. I didn't pass out or anything, but I really just sort of I remember getting on stage and then just, that like bright ringing in your ears sort of when you're so terrified. And then Bobby Lee was the person who got me to do stand-up comedy for the first time. I remember him yelling from the back of the room, "The light's on," which means my time was up. And I was so like shell shocked that I didn't even notice that they were flashing the light to tell me to get the fuck off the stage.
It's got to be terrifying.
It was terrifying, and it still is. There's still many times I am fairly terrified going on stage. I just maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, once I started touring with Norm a little bit, the last 3 is when I finally sometimes don't feel like I want to die right before I go on stage.
Yeah.
If you,
I mean, it's got to be. You're sitting there. Are people going to laugh? Or not?
My main thing is that typically is that I've got there. It's very rare I'm doing a room full of total strangers. It's always a
Right.
poker fan's there, or a friend is there, or between those two things, there's always someone that I really don't want to do bad in front of. Of course, you never want to do bad ever, but if it was a room totally full of strangers and I completely tanked and no one knew me from anywhere, it wouldn't be a big a deal. But there are people who I've got really great people in my community who come out. Like when I headlined for the first time ever. I had a headline weekend at this comedy club in Indiana, and people drove 2-3 hours. So like 10 people, drove more than an hour to come see me. So when that happens, the last thing I want to do is
It's
just
cool.
completely fucking eat shit on stage because
Yeah.
and it's part of it's ego, obviously, but part of it's just like I'm just a nice person. Like I just want people to not feel like they wasted their time.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. What was or is your favorite game or table to have called in the booth?
Well, there were obviously, we've got the viral hand from way back in the day on the original big game, the Ernest Wiggins run it 4 times hand. I'm so happy to be a part of that. There's not a lot of room for me in it. I tend to shine more when there's not something great going on in the poker. That's what I'm there for. When it's a really great hand, I'm not really necessary. No one gives a fuck about me, nor should they. So the most memorable stuff, the most fun that I've had oftentimes has nothing to do with like a big hand, and is therefore, you know, harder to remember because it's the big hands that stay in even my mind. But I will say that the two new tables we did of the big game reboot, the big game on tour, the fifth and final episode of Nikki Limo's table airs tonight on FS1, and I gotta say, I was worried. I was stressed out because when they said they were bringing back the big game, obviously the big game is like most people look back on it rather fondly, and most people look back on it as if it was like this great gift that we had in poker TV that got taken away from us too soon. So I was very invested in making when we do it again, getting that magic back, and in my opinion, we did. So this table is
100%.
yeah. Have you enjoyed it?
I have 100% enjoyed it and look forward to the second episode. And for those that may not know, when he was talking about the run it 4 times hand, if my memory serves me, Phil Hellmuth was the loser in that in that situation.
That's right.
Poor old Phil. We love Phil around here, that's for sure. And I just thought about something, and I didn't have a chance to look it up. But were you calling in the booth at the Shark Cage in that infamous Miss Finland Ronnie
Yes.
Bardahian? It was.
Absolutely, and yes, that's same thing, right? Like that's another one of the most viral hands that's ever been sort of uploaded to social media. But you really have to be paying attention to hear me in that hand because what's happening is so good and so
It
complicated. You
was
don't need
so good.
me getting in the way. I don't. When there's good table talk, not only do you not need me getting in the way, but there's just no time. There's no space for me. It's when people are very quiet that I need to sort of launch into action. But yes, I am on that clip as well. And James is with me on that one. The first one from the big game was me and Chris Rose.
I love that clip so much. I'm going to tell you, it's probably one of my favorite, if not favorite, clips from a show featuring poker ever. Because
Is this real
Miss
life? I mean,
Finland,
Ronnie's so funny.
yes, and I love Ronnie. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Ronnie's the best. I remember playing just cash games with him at Bellagio. He's just, I don't care what the guy's playing. He's like competitive. He wants to win every single time. And he's just hilarious. I felt kind of bad, Joe.
He,
I ribbed him about getting knocked off Survivor early. And I think that I don't think he took it too fun.
yeah,
Wasn't with the the funniness so that he. I'm sorry, what
What's
were you saying,
strange is
Sherry?
that I don't know how well you know Ronnie, but like a joke kind of taking a stab at me coming from someone I know will be received entirely different than someone I barely know or someone that I just met. Um, it is strange that the messenger is sort of, and I will say this that Ronnie, understandably, I think is a little sensitive about the Survivor thing. I don't know about it anymore, but I think even one time I needled him
Yeah.
about it slightly, and I could tell he wasn't mad or anything, but I could tell like, oh, this actually meant something
Yeah.
to him.
Okay.
No, yeah, totally, exactly the
All
same.
right,
Yeah.
software.
So
We have a
speaking,
question in the chat from Matt Tatler.
um,
He, he says,
may
enjoying
I?
this conversation. It's fascinating. Who would you, Stapes, if you had to choose, would you like to play poker with, past or present, and why?
I mean, I want to pick the 5 worst poker players in the world. I don't know who they are. I mean, I just want to win. I would just like to play with someone who's worse than me for once, which isn't really possible. I know it's gonna sound crazy, but I don't get to spend enough time with my actual friends, and so I would just pick 5 real friends of mine to play in a poker game with, and if I could magically have them somewhere to play poker. I'm a social poker player. I am playing to make friends. I'm playing for a good time. I'm playing to maybe the thrill of dragging like $120 pot. That sounds about good for me. I don't. It's not about competition for me. It's not about winning money. It's purely about what's a nice way we can spend time with 5 or 6 people and get to know them on a very basic level. But and you get to hang with people that you wouldn't normally meet otherwise. So everything good that's happened to me in my life for like the last 15 years has been because of poker. So that's kind of how I look at it. So I would just pick my 5 friends that I don't get to play with anymore.
I love that because I think of poker as my social outlet in life, and I
Yeah.
love to have fun. And I will play hands, 6 hands in a row blindly just to have fun. And I'm totally on board with that. And I thank Matt for that question. He's
Great
listening to
question,
us
Matt.
from Leeds in the United Kingdom.
Great question, Matt. Great job.
It was a great question. And I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Um, in light of recent posts and tweets about solvers at the poker table, what is your view about cell phones at the poker table?
I mean, personally, I don't have a lot of leisure time. So when I go to play poker, being able to have my phone and also sort of double dip. Like I'll be on my phone getting a massage and playing poker. That's like combining 3 of my favorite things like all at the same time. Um, if it comes down to a matter of game integrity, I would obviously go along with it. I like having my phone there. Do I think there are some positives from taking the phones away that we haven't thought of? Like the games will probably move faster. There'll probably be more. We're focusing it specifically on um, on solver type stuff, but there'll probably be other game integrity stuff that will sort of solve itself as well if you take away phones at the table. I try not to wade into these waters too much because as a guy who like plays casually at best, like I don't really think that my opinion matters all that much. I just, I have strong opinions about things that affect me, like how to make poker television. But as far as what players are asked to do or not do, like I kind of leave it up to the operators and the players to decide because, I play poker at a casino like I don't know, maybe 5 times a year.
Got it. Well, I appreciate that answer. And I'm going to ask Asimov, which is Isaac, if he has any questions for you. Isaac?
Um, I don't have any questions, but knowing that you're close to Maria Ho makes me feel closer to Maria Ho, which is always a
You know
plus
what's
for
weird
me.
is I remember this was like, do you remember? Obviously, I think you're an adult person, Sherry. Remember the '90s where you would do like a weird call-in show, like a movie star would be on like a you could dial in and it was like a radio show you listen to on your
Yes.
phone. Did you ever do that? I did that once
Yes,
with
of
with
course.
William Shatner and shoot, what's it? Patrick Stewart. There was like a Star Trek one, and I called in. And I sat there, and I was all nervous in case they called on me. They never did, but I sat on the phone for like an hour and a half listening to William Shatner and Patrick Stewart answer questions. This feels like that.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, in our spaces, we always give anyone that's on the speaker panel a chance to speak. And, sometimes they're not quite ready and sometimes they are, and it's okay. Isaac, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, bud?
When is your Vegas show again? I'm hoping that I'm in town when you're there so I can try to catch you.
Is Isaac actually speaking, or am I? Because I don't hear anyone.
Oh, Isaac is speaking. So
Oh.
he is asking you because he can hear you, Joe.
Oh,
When
sorry.
you
So yeah, so that whole diatribe, I just want to maybe sound like a crazy person. If the whole audience heard Isaac and then just heard me launch into that for no reason, I did not hear Isaac's first question. It was just a bunch of dead air. I was just
That's
trying to
okay.
fill the dead air. Okay,
I'm going to ask you his question, and then
sure.
he'll wait for your answer. And then he'll go out and come back in, and that
Okay,
should
all right.
solve the space problem. He asked you when your show is July 5th at in Vegas, where and what time.
Oh, sure, great. Hey, thank you, Isaac. Wow, I wish I probably should give Isaac a couple of bucks for letting me work a plug-in. It is on July 5th at a place called The Space LV. Um, it is just behind, it's like just across the 15 from like if you can walk there from Aria basically, but it's on the west side of the 15. So it's called The Space. If you go to thespacelv.com, you can get tickets now. And the show, I believe, starts, I think we have 7:30 listed on there. It's day 1C of the main event. So I know a lot of people are going to be either playing day 1C or, but I was hoping that since I think most people played day 1D, we're going to try to get everyone out of there by like 10:30 at the latest. So I don't
Sounds
think,
great.
yeah, I think that we might be able to get people. So it's going to be, we're blocking off 7:30 to 10:30, but it's going to be more like, the show will be more like 8 to 10 probably.
Awesome.
And the tickets are on that site, the spacelv.com. And we're
Okay.
basically, well, when I was asked to do this, they said, "Do you want to do a special?" And I said, "No, I don't really believe in a comedian of my level doing a special. Like, I don't deserve a special. A special's for like George Carlin or Richard Pryor or Liza Schlesinger. But what I will do is I will record some comedy, and I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to write the entire show on the road. So when I leave June 12th, I'm going to start writing the material about the road trip, and that's what you'll see on July 5th is me sort of doing stand up based on all the things I've seen in America over the last 3 weeks."
I love that. I love the real life comparisons. And
Yeah.
is anybody else seeing the irony here that Joe's in our space tonight for the first time? He's popped his spaces cherry, and he's actually going to be performing at the space in Las Vegas, July the 5th. I love the
And he's wearing
irony.
a spacesuit
And he's wearing
in
a
his
space
PFP.
shoe, a suit, is what Isaac said.
That's
And
true.
belongs here. He's in a space suit. So I want to see if John Robertsons, do you have any questions or comments for Joe?
Um,
John was one of the people that drove in Indiana, that drove many
yeah,
hours to come see me, actually.
that was.
I love that.
So I'll just throw out there, like, I don't really have a question because, I mean, we talk
I can't
enough,
hear
but
John either. Is this a me problem?
Uh-oh. Um, you know what, Joe? If you don't mind going out of this space and coming
Yeah.
back in, we'll bring you back up.
All right, let's try again. All right.
Sure thing. And while Joe does that, I'm going to give a little plug to our sponsor, Elevator Results. If you need to lose weight or gain weight, Elevator Results can tailor make a plan for you. Follow them on Twitter or check out their site at elevatorresultspt.com. And we will try to bring Joe back up here again. And as soon as you can hear me, Joe, let me know you can hear me, Joe.
I can hear you. Okay, there we go.
All right, John, give it a try and let's see if he can hear you.
oh, hey, I wasn't gonna. I don't have a question, but I will say that we did drive for like 3 hours to go see the show, and it was absolutely worth it. So
Oh,
if you are in town where he's playing, like we're actually talking about maybe driving to Illinois or one of the Kentucky shows just to see you again because we had such a good time. I can't walk into a hotel room without thinking of Joe anymore, and he'll know what that means probably. So
so yes, of course. So I appreciate that. I also wanted to make it let everyone know that part of what we're doing is we're also filming all the behind the scenes of this tour. So we're doing like a little documentary, And one of the things that I always thought was interesting about when I do stand up is that, like in Indiana, people come out and they're poker fans, and oftentimes people are like, "Oh, hey, I live about 20 minutes away. If you want to go play some poker, like come over to my house." And I'm always politely, "Thanks, but it's late and I don't really know you." But I'm going to say yes to these sorts of offers on the trip, provided that we can come and document it, what happens. So, John, if you and your gang end up driving to the Kentucky gig, I know there's a bunch of poker rooms around. I would love to go and play with you guys afterward if that's made it more worth your while.
Oh, absolutely. And just a side personal note, like I brought a couple of a coworker and his wife with me that night. I'm sure you remember. They think I'm like a rock star now because like they've never been somewhere where like hey, we went to see a comedian and like then we were hanging out with them and talking and like this is great. So they thought that I'm just the coolest person. So thanks for that.
Oh, that fucking feeds my ego so much. Yes, tell me more.
I love it.
No, it was great. They were telling everybody at work. They're like, "Man, when you go hang out with Robertson, you get to go like backstage and talk to the people and all." And they just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So enjoy that.
That's I do enjoy it very much. I'm glad that like I said, I'm glad it was worth it for you. That's all I really care about.
And John, you know you're a damn rock star. There's no question about that.
Well, I know, but I don't want to like seem egotistical or anything.
Never, never, ever. I see ASG is still a speaker with us. Do you have any questions or comments for Joe?
Sure. So season 2 of, or not season 2, reboot, whatever you want to call it, of the big game.
Sure.
This time you guys aren't showing all the hands, so I'd like to know what's your opinion on that. And when you did commentary, did you was it pre-edited or how did that work?
Sure, yeah. So the big game has always been an edited show, has always been a cut down show. We don't like to call it this, but it's more or less highlights. Same as the original 150 hands spread out over 5 episodes. We'd show you, it's not like when we take a 12-hour tournament final table and cut that down to an hour. You're going to miss some, we really have to make some tough decisions in those cases. In the case of the big game, you see pretty much every hand that matters. Obviously there's 150 hands total, and we're only showing you maybe 7 or 8 hands per show, and there's only 5 shows. So there's a bunch that are cut out. But what the producers do make a great effort to do is to make sure that even if we have to cut something out, that the story is still being told accurately. So, when Nikki's up, she's still up. When she's down, she's still down. We're showing those key moments that we're not, we're still sort of delivering things as they happened. Yes, to answer your question, yes, I see it. I see that version of it. I was there on the day, watching every single hand because, for the first time, I took an interest in actually producing the show. So I was in the truck sort of producing as it was happening live. We did not have cards up where I was for integrity reasons. So, I was only seeing the showdowns. But obviously the showdown hands are some of the more interesting ones. So we know those ones are going to make to the show. But when I go to do the TV coverage, yeah, I'm not seeing the whole 150 hands either. I'm just seeing what's being put in front of me. We basically, what I see is what you guys see on TV. It just doesn't have my voice on it yet.
Great question. Thanks, ASG. Any others? Questions, ASG?
Yeah, based on.
Oh, sorry. Let him finish and we'll get to you, Brian.
Yeah, it was interesting because
Sure.
it was interesting because the people were saying due to the way he played, you couldn't you weren't sure if the loose cannon was Nikki or Alan Keating, but so it'll be. I haven't seen any episodes where he's left to see how that dynamic changes.
Yeah, so a little inside baseball there is hold on I'll just tell you, I'll give you a little backstory. Is that Alan, I sneak in one of the shows that Alan had shown up, he'd been up all night. He landed at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I think he took a private plane in and came right to us and told us from the beginning, like, I don't know if I'm going to be any good today or not, guys. Sorry, I've been up all night. And the fact that he lasted as long as he did in the game, just even though he was losing so much, was really we really appreciated him sticking around for as long as he did. Go ahead.
That's great. And then my other question is but I guess maybe just on Twitter and Spaces, there was it was a whole to do or whatever you want to call it when EPT won the GPI award. So I was just wondering if you had any opinions on having cash games and tournaments being on the same award, like being up for the same award.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think that no matter what the GPI does, the people that the award didn't specifically apply to are going to feel a little bit stung and are going to want a separate category. And for example, like I think that if you're going to nominate poker commentators, there you should be nominating the duo. I think it should be, because everyone's a team for the most part, but that's self-serving because I think that me and James are a really good team. So obviously, like, anytime you think about stuff like that. So, look, I do think that I was a little bit disturbed by the fact that our win was so surprising to people because we are clearly a world-class live stream. I think that if people want to vote on what a stream that is exciting every single day, 6 days a week, 50 weeks a year, and they think that's what deserves the award, that's 100% their option to do. Obviously, we are doing different things. We're putting out a world-class sports broadcast. Hustler is putting out a really compelling live stream with huge stakes that we don't really have. So, people are going to vote based on their favorite. That's really what the category was fave live stream, I believe, or maybe fave was 2 years ago. And so, yeah, so I also think, I know everyone hates me for this, but I also think it's such a small industry, and the best live stream isn't really going to change from year to year. Our stream is going to be the same next year. Hustler is going to be the same next year. There might be slight change or whatever. And we're such a small industry. I really don't see why Hustler can't win 1 year, which they did, by the way, 2 years ago. EPT can't win 1 year. Triton can't win another year. It doesn't really bother me to see. I think the whole point of having these awards, like, people think it's really about, like, the competition and the best should win. And fine, if that's how you feel. But, like, the awards are there to bring recognition to the industry and to legitimize the industry. So in my opinion, spreading the love and having a different sort of winner every year, there shouldn't be any dynasties in the global poker awards. It just doesn't do anyone any good for any one person to win an award year after year. And that's why I'm looking at, I don't know why I'm bringing this up. It just so happens that Matt Savage popped up as a listener while I'm talking about people who win awards every single year at the Global Poker Awards. So I don't really look. I'm very proud that we won. I think you're absolutely right that everyone has like a different criteria of what goes into their favorite live stream. I'm glad we got ours. If nobody mentioned us for like the next 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't mind it at all. I'm very happy for other people to be recognized.
Well, and congratulations again, because we all sit back waiting, in the spaces we discuss who's going to win. And, there were people upset about this or that. And, that's part of the discussion. And I loved every minute of it. And, hopefully I see Matt down there. He's overseas right now. And Matt, hopefully we're going to get to interview you soon because, I would love nothing more than for you to get a nod from the Hall of Fame this year. So
Ooh, yeah.
that would be amazing. Okay, Software Brian, you're next, bud. Go ahead.
Yeah. As far as poker television goes, what do you think the right mix is between story and strategy?
Well, it depends what your purpose is. If your purpose is to make the people in poker spaces happy, I think it's probably a lot of strategy. I think it's if it's to make the people happy, especially the loudest voices on social media, I think mostly want strategy when it comes to the poker world. Do I think that those people are necessarily be the audience we should be chasing after? No, because y'all are going to tune in anyway. And I think the point of poker television is to entertain people and to make the game accessible to a wider audience. So personally, if I had to choose one, I'm going to lean more heavily on story. I know that that's going to upset some of the, especially the people whose praise I want the most. I want the pros who watch and who are in the live stream to love me and to think that we put out a great broadcast. And I want, and I want the Scott Severs and the Ike Haxons of the world to be like, God damn, Joe Stapleton's so great at poker analysis. Man, I'm really impressed by him. But I just don't think that that's really all that important in the grand scheme. What's more important is somebody who gets offered our link in the YouTube algorithm and they tune in we might have them for like 15 seconds, and that they see something that makes them laugh or smile or gets them interested in a particular person or what's going on here, and we retain that person. So that's sort of my philosophy about, I would go very heavily weighted toward story and let other people discuss strategy on their own time.
I love that. All right, Andrew George is here, and it is your turn, bud.
Wait, aren't I doing Andrew George's podcast in like a couple of weeks?
Hello, Sherry, Brian, and
Does that
Joe.
you,
How's it going?
Should I ask me to do your podcast, Andrew? Are you speaking? I can't hear you.
Wait a minute.
Oh
Oh,
shit!
yeah.
Let me come back,
He's going to go out and
Sherry.
come back in, Joe. He'll be right
Andrew's
back.
going to go out and come back in. Okay.
Yep. Okay, Paul. Well, we're waiting for Andrew to get back. Paul Vado, come on and chat with
Oh,
us.
So
Go
do
ahead.
you guys know
thank
who
you.
Paul Vato is? Is Paul Vato? Because if you don't know, I'll tell you.
Please do.
Paul was the runner-up to Nikki Limo in the auditions to be the loose cannon of the table you just watched. These first 5 episodes.
Oh.
And that was really my purpose of being here, was to find out which judge thought it was a good idea to get rid of me. I'm just kidding, Joe. I don't think I want to know. It was such a great experience, and Joe is just such an amazing. He was an amazing judge, and to watch him work at his profession was unbelievable. So thank you for that wonderful experience,
Yeah,
Joe.
Paul, it was great having you there. And obviously, if I could be perfectly honest, the way the auditions went, I didn't want it to go down like that. I don't mean like who got chosen. I'm very happy with our choices, but I didn't want it to be like us keeping people all day and then like rejecting people to their faces or like telling people all of that. They're like, nope, sorry, this is TV. You have to do it like this. So I wanted to do it very cowardly and just like send everyone to a room and have a producer be like, okay, you 3 stay. And then we make a decision from there. So that whole thing was like not my favorite. I want to say yes to everybody. Luckily, I think we gave everyone like a 1K ticket to an event at the NAPT for their troubles. So that's not the worst consolation prize, I don't think. But yeah, it was it was cool to make 2 people very happy, and the folks that we strung along the longest and didn't make happy all took it really well. So we were fortunate for that.
No, 100%. It was one of the greatest experiences that I've had, just to even come so close. But thank you for narrowing it down, because not Lady or James Hardigan, that Brit, but I'll
Oh
deal
no
with
no no
them
no!
on a
Sorry,
separate
let me
day.
be let me be clear. Let me be clear that even though we were like the figurehead judges, we weren't the only people making the
Yeah,
decisions.
of
Like
course,
in the first round, obviously when we're voting yes or no, people to get through. But obviously, like after the first round, and then I think in between, like whatever we did second and the actual announcing of the winner, there were long discussions that took place behind the
Sure,
scenes between
sure.
me, James, Nadia, Francine, who is the show producer, and then for this, we brought back Matt Morans, who is the original producer of all those really great World Series of Poker, TV shows that we all fell in love with in the early 2000s. Matt was the show producer on those shows. So, we all put our heads together and put a lot of thought into, and look, we went back and forth a bunch of times. It was you at one point, and then it wasn't you, and then it was someone else. So it's
No. I love the way it turned out, to be honest. And I got teary for Nikki, and kind of looking at the show, and I see me kissing her head. I'm like, oh my god, I hope people don't take this the wrong way. But I was genuinely so happy for her, because I knew it should have been her. I was like, I mean, she's brilliant and funny, and she was my ride as well, because we live like a block
oh
away from
awesome.
each other. But but okay, you let the other judges know that they're safe. They will not incur my wrath.
Sure.
But
You're
thank you, Joe.
welcome.
Thank
Of
you
course,
for
of
that
course.
amazing experience, and I can't wait to maybe audition again. So thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. That's I don't know that the big game is being. There's another season. Isn't official yet. I think we have a pretty good chance of it coming back again this year at the NAPT. I don't know if there'll be tweaks to the auditions or not. Ideally, in my mind, we would open it up to more than just people who are present in Las Vegas, but regulations at the moment, back when the original big game was cast, PokerStars was operating in a gray market, so they didn't really care about, various rules and regulations, and now they care very much. So doing it live in person in
Right.
Vegas is like the only completely safe legal way to do it, in a short amount of time. So that's kind of why it went down like that.
Well, if anyone that's in this room or anywhere else wants to spot me 50 or 100K, then I can just buy my way in. So
Paul, thank you
thank you, Joe. Thank you, Sherry.
for joining us. I hope
Oh
you're
my
not a
God. Yes,
stranger.
thank you. No. Whenever I see you pop up, I will definitely pop in, and I'd love to have you on my podcast, but we can talk about that at a later
I
time.
would
Thank
love
you
that.
so much.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you. Okay, Andrew, let's try it again. Go ahead, bud.
Testing, 1, 2.
Joe, can you
Anybody?
hear him?
I cannot hear him. No, should I leave and come back again?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no.
He
This
may
is the
have.
most
No, I
awkward
just.
meeting ever. Okay, bye.
Bye. It's one of those spaces things, isn't it? Sometimes we just have to go out and come back in.
I've gotten used to just having to do it regularly. It feels like it happens every day.
Well, and it all is about going in and out of Wi-Fi. That is the biggest culprit, I would have to say, is going in and out. Like you
All
get out of
right,
your car, go inside the house. All right.
Andrew.
No, I just feel bad making
There
Joe
he is.
leave and
There
come
he is.
back.
Yeah, no, I had to press 4 whole buttons.
Firstly, Sherry, Brian, thank you for having me up. And Joe, yes, you're quite right. I'll be getting, not to give a plug, Sherry, on your show, but yeah, already arranged to have Joe on the hand review show in a month or so. So I'll get plenty of chance to talk to him. But Joe, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say that some people know here that I'm relatively new to poker. And you were talking about the sort of 10, 15 seconds of getting someone to smile. Well, I wonder whether I'd even be playing poker if it wasn't for your commentary.
Hold on a second. Let me tap in my bosses at PokerStars real quick. Hold on 1 second. I'm with my contract renewal at the end of the year. Hold on. Can you just say that again? Say that. Hold on. Just start my voice recorder and go. No, Andrew, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much for saying so. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's it. Look, that's a sample size of 1, and that's enough for me.
Yeah, it's funny, the little things. I don't know how many different things I could quantify as to the reasons I play, but certainly just your commentary is something I remember from my earliest times of watching and getting into poker, and having a giggle and a laugh and finding it entertaining. So yeah, you get a thanks from me, to be honest, because I may well not even be playing poker today, if it wasn't for someone like yourself. So good man, Joe.
Well, I'm glad we have you.
Well, that is awesome. And Andrew, you're always welcome to plug whatever you're doing, especially when it's something that I encouraged you to do, like that hand review show. So I'm so happy Joe's going to join you and do that, because I think it's an important thing to be doing. It's such a great positive here in the spaces, which I'm all about. And I'm inviting
Put Joe in the hand review situation. I'm sure he's not entirely used to that, obviously commentating through their hands, but I'm actually going to be
That's
asking
okay.
him about strategy.
I'll just focus on the story.
I love that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And we have Matt came and joined us on the panel. Go ahead, Matt from Leeds. Press that microphone button in the bottom left. There you go, Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I do apologise for that. Hello, it's a pleasure to be on the spaces, and a pleasure speaking to the one and only poker baby known as Joe Stapes. Hello, poker baby Joe.
Hello, Matt. How are you? Matt Matt is a new addition to my my app replies, and is one of the most detail-oriented, very close watcher of the big game. It's been is really gives me like a recap after every episode of his favorite parts. And so, Matt, I'm very glad to have you here, and thanks for watching the show, and I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Oh, thanks, Joe. Very kind of you. It's an absolute joy and a privilege. And the big game on tour is an absolute joy. It's a shame, though, over here we have to watch it a day later.
Yeah.
But, you know, time differential over here.
We have to watch it a day later here, too, a lot of the time. We got bumped by truck NASCAR the night of the premiere. So, I mean, I had about 40 people at my house. I set up a projector outside, and the show is about a half hour late getting started. And I looked to my buddy who actually watches truck NASCAR and said, so are they going to cut away from this anytime soon? And he was like, oh, no. There's been way too many crashes. They're going to stay with this until it's over. And they're on lap like 40 of 180 or something. So luckily, I had like a computer file of the episode, so I was able to put that on instead. But Nikki, unfortunately, had the same issue at her house. Nikki Limo was trying to do a premiere party, and basically no one got to see it. So all I'm saying, Matt, is you have to wait a day late. So do we sometimes also, because FS1, treats us like the redheaded stepchild.
I can't comment on that one, unfortunately. But yes, right. I see where you're coming from with that. Joe, who would you say has been your best poker tournament, and who got you interested in poker as a whole?
Well, for me, basically, when I moved to Los Angeles as a very young man, I got out of college, and I had about a $5,000 graduation gift that my parents had saved from my grandmother when she died like 20 years ago. So I moved out to LA with that in a car, and I was trying to make it as people do in Los Angeles. And since we didn't have any money or furniture or anything else, me and my buddies, we would just sit around and deal out hold'em hands on the floor to each other. We wouldn't even really play. We would just take a deck of cards and just deal a bunch of hands face up and just run the board and go, oh, look, that would have been a straight. Oh, that would have been this, And, sort of, we went from that to just sort of, playing $5 tournaments or whatever. And I don't know if you were in the spaces earlier, but for me, poker's always been about hanging out with friends. And it just so happened that my buddy got this internship and they needed another person. And I happened to be I was working for a TV show at the time, and the TV show laid us all off for the summer. So I exactly had the World Series of Poker off. So I was able to go join him. I never thought I liked poker enough to like work in it, I never thought I'd be on poker television. It just sort of all evolved from me liking to play, having a little free time, and liking to write. They needed a writer. It was kind of simple as that. It's always been about hanging with friends for me, though.
Definitely, that's a good thing about playing cards, as well as being with people, isn't it? It's that social aspects of it. And you can have like loads of fun and tell jokes like I know you and James Hartigan do on the Big World Tour. It's fantastic. It's a good thing. Should be more of it, I think.
Well, believe me, I'd love for there to be more of it.
Joe, when are you gonna? Because I know you do stand-up comedy as well. Are you ever gonna tour over here across the pond?
I do London just about every other month. I'd say I do a show or two in London. I haven't ventured outside of London just yet, but I am talking to my buddy there. The one I'll be touring with here in the States is from the UK, and I keep telling him that one of these trips I'll stay for a couple extra days, and we'll go try to hit like Manchester, Leeds, whatever we can while we're there, and see if we can't do a little mini UK tour as well. So watch my Twitter is all I can tell you.
It'd be great to see you wearing Leeds, because I know a few pals who are fans of yours as well.
No, it'd be great to have you at the show, because I really need the money.
Well, actually, I'm a little bit of a comedian myself as well. I've been doing because I used to work in in retail, and he used to always make the customers laugh. He used to always tell them jokes.
I
Very good,
love
Matt.
it.
I'm
All
sure they
right, Matt,
appreciated
I'm
that.
going to pass the baton, but before I go to you, ASG, I'm going to go over a question that Poker Night in America put in our chat.
Oh, God.
Dream co-commentary partner from outside the poker world. Who would that be,
Oh,
Joe?
man. What a question. What a question. Can I just list a couple? I think Conan O'Brien would be amazing to do commentary with. I think Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave. How fun would that be?
That would be fun.
I did get to do a little commentary with Michael Liam Black because he's like kind of in the poker world, and that was really fun. Obviously, if I had had the chance to do it with Norm Macdonald, even though he is technically a poker commentator also, that would have been really fun. Yeah, I don't know. I think top of my list, I guess, would be Conan. Howard Stern. How about that? If we can just pick anyone, why not? Let's do it with Stern.
I love that. How fun would that be? You two would be our mess, but it would
Right?
be fun. It would be a great mess. ASG, go ahead, bud.
Yeah. So, yeah, you talking about the truck and what was it, Fox Sports, whatever, made me think
I'm
of.
just getting like little clips of what ASG's saying. I can leave and come back, or someone can translate if they
Wait a
want.
second. Hold on. ASG, go out and come back in. Let's try that first.
Oh,
Okay,
Please,
okay, you
maybe
sir.
need me to. Okay.
I'll just keep going out and coming back in. Sure, it
Yeah.
should be me.
And unfortunately, that's just part of Spaces, Joe. While we
Okay,
wait for ASG to
it's
come
not
back,
me.
I'm going to ask you if you have a favorite comedian.
Yeah, too many to name, but I'll tell you a couple of people I really like right now. Maybe I can give you guys some recommendations. There's a fellow named Greg Warren out of St. Louis, who is terribly funny, who is maybe the best comedian working right now, in my opinion, as far as writing and timing and everything like that. Wonderful guy, has done a lot for me. There's a guy named Gianmarco Cerezi that I really like right now. I think he's hilarious. A guy named Alex Falcone is most excellent. A woman named Blair Sochi is really killing it right now. So there's some names to get people
There's
started.
a guy out of Seattle. His first name is Nate, and I cannot think of his last name for the life of me. Um, and he is hilarious. Like he picks on audience members. That's his whole
Mm.
spoof. And I just love that kind of comedy. But anyway, ASG, go ahead, bud.
Yeah. So, um, um, yeah, with the Fox Sports or whatever you want to call it, the truck NASCAR, it just made me think of the question of how much, as somebody like in the industry, how much do you contribute the moneymaker effect to ESPN carrying the World Series of Poker, and how much do you like? How much do you think it would help if they got the rights again instead of CBS Sportsnet?
You know, it's hard to say. It's kind of a chicken or egg situation. I feel like if the audience was there for poker, that ESPN would want the rights. And I don't think it's necessarily the other way around, that if they got the rights, the audience would materialize somehow. I think that the the moneymaker effect, everything that happened with the poker boom, the moneymaker, I think, is obviously the biggest part of that. But there's so many other things, the perfect storm of it being really big in pop culture at that moment too. The Celebrity Poker Showdown being a part of that. The Rounders obviously came a few years before Chris Moneymaker, and I think that all of that sort of combined really sort of catapulted everything. And I think that we are experiencing a bit of a poker boom right now. I think that obviously, live poker is really thriving in America. I think that poker content is doing, in many ways, doing better than ever. It's so segregated now, right? How many live streams are there? How many podcasts are there? How many, there's no, it used to be there was just a couple of poker shows out there. Now you have so many options of what to watch, which in a way is good, but also, it means that we're all watching different things and we don't quite have that grasp of like the zeitgeist that we once did. And I think it's possible to have it again. I think if there was not to be a cliche because I've heard this many times, but I think if there was like a Queen's Gambit type of thing that happened with poker where there was some really cool piece of pop culture that got people interested in it again, we could take this boom even further.
I love that. ASG, anything else, sir? He may still be at work. He may be dodging the bus. He may still be at work. So we're just going to move on. And I want to give a shout out to Brad Nessers down in the goo listening with us. He is a WPT streamer. He's on the stream team, and I call him a friend. And he won a main event seat online this week. So congratulations to you,
Ooh,
Brad.
congrats.
I hope to see you in Vegas when I'm there at the end of June. Also, Brian, our co-host, had to take off because his daughter is graduating today, and
wow.
he needed to get to graduation. So, good luck to them and that graduate, of course. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we move it along? John Robertson, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things is roasts. I like roasts.
Let me leave and come back. John's all wonky again for me. Hold on. I'll be right back.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Sherry?
I can hear you, and it's so unfortunate when that happens. It's so annoying, and it's always right when it's something juicy, isn't it, or something fun? But that space is for you. You just
you get used to it.
Right. You just keep rolling along with it. All right, let's try it. And you know what? I'm going to invite Joe to be the co-host. Maybe that'll help with some of the technical stuff. So go ahead and accept that co-host, Joe, and we'll see if that'll help with the technical issues you're having, bud.
Let's try again, John.
John, can you hear him?
Is he talking?
Yeah. Oh no.
Okay, it's John's fault again. Go, John.
Okay,
go. Oh, that's so funny. Well,
you must have a very loyal audience to sit through this. This is fucking compelling radio.
Well, and you know what? It's just the fun of being able to talk to people and not be keyboard warriors. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
And it's firsthand. So while we wait for John, I'm going to ask you a question. If you could go back and tell your 20-year-old self something, what would that be?
Well, that's a good question. And it would be this is going to be really bad advice, but it would be to be way more self-serving, be way more of a self-promoter, be the annoying guy who asks for favors, be the annoying guy who tries to hang out. I worked on a TV show and I never bothered the writers or the actors because I didn't think it was my place to be like talking to them. And I wish that I had not followed all the rules. I wish that I'd been more of an asshole, not an asshole, but just more of like a squeaky wheel.
Right.
And that I had kind of been like, no, this is what I want, and this is me. And look, I turned out all right, and everything worked out okay for me. But I do wonder sometimes if I'd actually pushed for the things that I wanted, where things might have ended up. So that's probably.
And I think that's a lesson you learn as you get older, right? Heaven to Betsy, but that's just the point. When you're younger, you don't, you're trying to follow the rules and be a gentleman or be a lady or whatever. And when you get older, you realize, hey, sometimes you do need to be that squeaky wheel to get things done. And that's the way the world works. So, John Robertson, are you back with us, bud?
I'm back. I'm just listening to this wisdom, and you're saying stuff that I agree with 100%. All right. Here's my question. I like to watch the roasts when Comedy Central does the roasts and all those things. So if you were going to put the panel for the roast of you, who would you want on the panel?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, typically, I'm not actually a huge fan of the roasts, even though I get why people like them, and I think that they're really great jokes and very funny. Roasts, now, in the Tom Brady case, like, Tom earned a roast. Like, it makes sense that he would get roasted. But it used to be you would be roasted by people who knew you and people who loved you. And, the way that it's such big business now, these people don't really know Tom Brady. Some of them do, but for the most part, they're just really talented joke writers. So I would want people that know me really well to do it. I would want Hardigan to roast me. I would want Scott Huff, who is my original partner in poker stuff, to roast me. I would want Matt Savage to roast me. I would want people who've known me for a really long time to be up there. And yeah, we could have one or two hired guns. We could have Nikki Glazer roast me. Sure, we could have Jeff Ross roast me for a little bit of that. For some of those viral moments. But I'd much rather it be surrounded by people that I know and love.
Well, I definitely agree that I like the older, like the Friars Club roast better than the more modern
Exactly.
ones.
Yes. And those people all knew each other, right? These are people that were comedians that worked together all the time. Like the D. Martin roasts, like those guys knew each other very well. So yes, that's a little bit more what I'm thinking of.
Great question, John Robertson. Do you have anything else, bud? All right, he
Nope,
turned his
I'm
microphone.
good. I
Okay,
actually
I
have
saw
to
you.
go because my daughter wants to watch basketball. So you guys have a great evening, Joe. Thanks for doing this, Sherry.
A
As
girl
always.
watching basketball. What?
Wait, hey, it's a girl watch. We're watching girls basketball. We're watching the WNBA together. So
I
Very cool.
love
Enjoy.
it. Great job. Thanks, John. Appreciate you and enjoy that game. I wanted to reiterate, I know we talked about this as we started the interview, but I think we need to give a shout out to Joe's upcoming appearances. Of course, you can find his entire schedule at fansofstapes.com. On the 14th of June at 6:30, he'll be at the Comedy Club at Celebration, located in Southern Illinois. And then he'll also be at the Looney Bin in Little Rock, Arkansas, June 15th at 9:30. Again, check the website for the entire schedule. But Joe, earlier you ran down that schedule. Why don't you do that again?
Sure, yeah, and I guess I'll tell you what, because the odds of me hitting of the 17 people in this space, the odds of me hitting someone that's within range of one of these shows probably isn't good. But if you've enjoyed this time that we spent together and you want to help me out a little bit, I would take a retweet of one of our posters as well, would be just fine. But we are going to be going from Arkansas to Illinois to Michigan to Wisconsin to Kentucky to Austin to Dallas to Fort Worth to Albuquerque to Flagstaff to Las Vegas, and that's all taking place will actually be 3 different places in Illinois, June 12th through July 5th. July 5th is our finale in Vegas. So if you guys have enjoyed this, if you scroll back in my tweets or go to my media tab, you'll see that I tweeted like a schedule a couple of days ago. If you guys have enjoyed this and want to give that a share, that would be great. Thank you.
And yeah, please do share his information so we help spread the word. And just so you know, Joe, we get a lot of replays of our space. We did an interview last week with Sean McCormick that's had 1,600 replays, I think
all
it was.
right. Well, congrats. And by the way, congrats on making your own thing, everyone who's involved in this.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. And, it's just one of those things that kind of just generically took place. And we've really enjoyed it for the last year. We do a daily WSOP coverage show every day at 9 a.m. And we just go through all things Las Vegas. And I see Veronica came into the room, and I'm going to send her an invite in case she had something she'd like to add to the conversation. She may still be at work, so it might not be possible. But I want to do a little rapid fire with you, Joe, if you don't mind. Are you familiar?
Well, I'm not familiar with your rapid fire, but the concept in general I have heard of, yes.
Awesome. Beer or wine?
Beer. I'm sorry, do you want an explanation or just an answer?
That's up to you.
Beer's a little more versatile, but wine has its place. So I'll just go beer if I had to pick one.
All right. Burgers or pizza?
I think, again, pizza's a little more versatile. I'm going to have to go with pizza overall, but I do, who doesn't love a burger?
Boxers or briefs?
This one's an easy one, boxers, compared to those two. But I like a best of both worlds kind of person, and I've been wearing boxer briefs for about 20 years now. So,
Alaskan cruise or Caribbean cruise?
Oh wow, Alaskan cruise is supposed to be beautiful, but you know what? Ugh, who cares? I just want to do nothing. I don't want to look at stuff. I don't have to be like, hey, come look at this. I just want to be catered to and drinking by the pool. So I'm gonna go Caribbean cruise. Caribbean.
Cook or do the dishes?
Cook 100%. I'm a out of this world cook. If I cooked for you, you would offer to do the dishes for the next week.
Oh, I like it. I like it. We might have to make that happen, but I would like it to be during a premiere of one of your shows.
That'll be fun.
Swimming pool or the beach?
Oh God, I hate beaches. I don't care if I live in Los Angeles. I haven't been to the beach in 15 years. Give me a pool any day of the week. I've actually been in my pool for the entirety of this conversation.
Well, and we heard the water in the background, and I wondered if it was a hot tub, but it's the pool. And I love it that Joe is coming to us from the pool. Joe, I know we promised you about an hour today because you are a busy man, and I appreciate you letting us go a little bit longer. So I'm
Sure.
going to let you off the hook. I appreciate you, and hopefully I'll get to come see your stand-up sometime soon. I love the fact you're going to be at the Space in Las Vegas on July 5th, wrapping up your road show, and I hope that many get to go see you. I appreciate you and our listeners and those that will listen on replay. So thanks, Joe.
Oh wait, Veronica just became a
Verna's.
speaker.
Yeah, I
Yep,
wanted to.
Go ahead,
I
love.
wanted to. I wanted to say something wonderful about Joe because he's absolutely not only the most handsome man in poker,
Oh boy, here we
but
go. Let's go.
also not only the best commentator in poker, and not only not only a great poker player, but you know what? He's an absolutely phenomenal person. A couple of years back, he found out I wasn't doing anything for my birthday, and he's like, "Come to LA. I'm going to throw you a party." And I thought he was just kind of joking. And then he's like, "No, seriously, just come to LA. We'll have a get together." And I thought there would be a couple people over and we'd have dinner. He invited everyone he knew. He threw me the biggest party. He rented an ice machine for like these little I don't know. I'm Polish. I don't know. We
Snow
never had
cones.
snow cones. And we were in the pool. There were porn stars there. It was amazing. They weren't naked, but like absolutely one of the best people I've ever had an opportunity to be friends with, who just goes out of his way, would take the shirt off his back for anybody. And Joe, I just love you and I appreciate you, and I would do anything for you. I think you're the best.
Veronica, that's so nice of you to say thank you. And I love that you just got a whole bunch of brags out for me that would be like really gross if I put it out there. But the fact that you put it out there, I get all the sort of the swag that comes with it. I will
The
say,
street cred.
I did invite like a beautiful, buxom, blonde European woman to a pool party at my house. It wasn't exactly like I donated my salary to the Ronald McDonald House. Like, it was still pretty self-serving to throw a party for Veronica, but yes, all of that is true.
I
I
love
had a
that so
unicorn.
much.
I had a piñata that was a unicorn that
Oh,
he filled with literally like 50 pounds of small little like tequila and rum and like little alcohol shots. That
that's amazing.
That was a good party.
He paid for everything, Sherry. Like, this man is a saint.
What a
A saint.
sweetheart, Joe.
Okay, wait, so if we're going to compliment each other, I'll say this. Veronica spent the entire next morning cleaning my kitchen top to bottom. And when I say top to bottom, she like cleaned the floor, which hadn't been done in a really long time. So it was worth it just for that.
She did say she was Polish, right? Like I am. We clean floors.
It was. I felt like it was a very look. It felt all very mutual. Like I did some stuff. We had a great time. It was awesome getting to spend that time with Veronica. So yeah, it certainly wasn't like complete charity.
That was a great story. Great job of being a good person, Joe. We love stories like that here in the spaces because unfortunately we hear a lot of stories that are not so good.
I'm giving up being a good person in 2025, so get while the getting's good. My New Year's resolution is to just be a total fucking asshole starting December 31st. So
all right, I don't believe it, but we're gonna
It's
look
about
out for
fucking
those
time.
stories.
It's about fucking time you've lived up to your reputation, because everyone thought you were an asshole, and now you're actually going to be one. When actually you were just like the nicest guy in fucking poker.
Well, that's why we do the spaces, so people can get to know you a little better.
Absolutely. Now, I have one more question. Somebody DM me. 8 Whiskey Sours is a avid listener, and he's asking if you have any interesting stories about Phil Ivey or D Neggs that you can share with us.
This feels like he's teeing me up for. I'm sorry if people have heard this story before, but I have like a legendary story that involves both of them. I'll tell this, and then I'm gonna like fade out afterwards. So this will be. Don't worry about thanking me again. When I finish the story, I'm gonna bounce. But
Perfect.
what happened was I was out with Daniel in Monte Carlo. Probably, I think it was exactly 10 years ago, and Daniel was like, "Hey, Ivy's partying at a club nearby. Do you want to come with me and go party with Ivy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely, sounds good." Ivy and I ended up. There's a guy like a fan who's being like a little too familiar. He's being kind of weird. Phil has him kicked out, and Phil and I ended up getting like into a bit of a drinking contest, which he definitely won. And then as we're walking back to the hotel, it's me and Phil and Daniel, and Daniel and Phil start like getting into like kind of an argument, but not like a fight. They're bickering. They're bickering, and Daniel's like, "Phil, you know that back in the day, like when you went broke, I loaned you money. You would have been on the rail forever. I believed in you, and no one else did." And Phil's like, "Yeah." And then Daniel's like, "No, man, you're not listening to me." And then Daniel reaches up and slaps Phil across the face on the street in Monaco, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna have to fucking get in between Phil Ivey and Daniel Negreanu right now. And Phil just stops. He looks at me and he goes, "You saw that, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, remember when I ask you tomorrow that we're gonna remind Daniel that I owe him a slap." So I'm like, okay, thank God that didn't escalate. So we start walking again, and after maybe 10 paces, Daniel starts in on him again. Da 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 da. Reaches up and slaps Phil across the face a second time. Phil looks at me and he says, "Now you know I owe Daniel 2 slaps." So we get back to the hotel, and Daniel is very drunk, and they don't want to let Daniel in the hotel. And Phil gives a security guard just like they eventually bring a wheelchair for Daniel because they don't want him sort of walking through. They want him escorted to his room. And Phil gives the security guard, I don't know how many euros, a fistful of euros. When they tried to throw Daniel out, Phil goes, "I lost 500,000 euros in this casino last year. You're not kicking my friend out." And they just walked away. I walked Daniel to his room, stayed with him for a little bit to make sure he was okay. Next day, by the way, the next day is the 100,000 euro super high roller.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it's 5 in the morning when I leave Daniel's room. They're playing in the super high roller. Started at, I think, probably noon, but maybe even 11 at that point. I don't remember. And the thing about me is that I had hung out with Phil maybe like a half dozen times, and Phil's famous for like not really remembering people's names or who they are. And so I've always wanted Phil to finally have my moment with Phil, and for Phil to remember me. So I go down to the super high roller and I get on the rail, and Phil sees me and he jumps up out of his chair, folds his hand, jumps up out of his chair, comes over to talk to me. And I'm like, oh, this is it. Fucking me and Phil are boys now. Phil comes over, we chat for a little bit, we talk about the night before. We end up talking a little bit about Full Tilt. He goes, "Hey, you remember I owe Daniel 2 slaps, right?" I'm like, "Yep." Cool. I'm like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, finally Phil is finally gonna remember who I am." And then he goes, "All right, well, it was great talking to you, Jason. See you later."
Poor Joe.
There you go. There is a Daniel Negreanu, Phil Ivey story for you. I think Phil does recognize me when he sees me. He might think my name is Jay or Joe or James or Jason, but who really cares? It's been awesome talking to you guys. Thank you very much. If you could throw a share out there for you for the comedy tour, maybe get a couple more butts and chairs, that'd be great. If not, I'll see you guys July 5th in Las Vegas. Sherry, great show. Everyone who participated, thank you for making me feel like people give a shit about what I have to say. And I'll smell you later. Bye, guys.
Thanks,
Love
Joe.
you, Joe. Bye.
Oh, Veronica, thanks for sharing that story. What a great story. Oh, she bounced too. And guess what? We're all going to bounce because I'm ending this show so I can go enjoy my Friday evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And those that are going to listen to the replay, we appreciate you too. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Have a good weekend. Oh, Paul, I'm going to let you come up and speak, and then we're going to be out. Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for having me. And it was always wonderful to see my buddy Joe. I mean, I have a ton of stories from the Mad TV days when I was on the show and he was he was an intern, but we had a great Vegas story for his 21st birthday. Well, we brought him out to Vegas. So, I mean, one of these days we'll have to share all those stories. But
Well,
thank
you
you
are
for bringing
welcome
me
to
on.
join us any morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We do a WSOP daily show, and we also tack on some fun stuff throughout the show. So come and share your stories. We'd love it.
Oh, I would love to, but 9 a.m. is a little early for me. No, I'm
I
kidding.
hear you.
I'm kidding. I'll be here. I'll stop by.
Well, we would love to have you, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming in
Yes,
today.
ma'am.
And have a great weekend, everybody.